Hi there, I'm Javier, the tax terminator.
And hi, I'm Rusudan.
And today we're in Malta.
So I always wanted to go to Malta because on our channel and in business, Nomad Capitalist talks a lot about Malta, and finally we are here.
Yes, indeed.
Which is amazing, very inspiring to actually see where we are telling people to go and do things and get really good optionality.
Right,
So,
no, this is fantastic. And so for those of you watching us at home that maybe don't know exactly where Malta is, we're in the heart of the Mediterranean, right? So we're right next to Italy. Italy is somewhere in that direction. And we are also pretty close to North Africa, so the weather here seems to be mild. So supposedly we're in winter, and we're still in pretty decent temperatures, right?
It's a bit windy for my liking today, but it is really nice.
But that keeps it fresh. That's the important. That keeps it fresh. And so, Rusudan, how often do clients ask us about Malta?
Very often. We were talking yesterday, and I was saying that probably every day I either hear or say Malta, and I was like, right now I'm seeing what I was talking about all these years. So
that's fantastic.
It is something that is very well structured in certain situations. So we do, I think, often not promote, but like tell people of this optionality, and
let them know the benefits.
The benefits, because there are some very good benefits, and I guess you're going to tell us all about that.
Yeah, no, of course, 100%. We're gonna talk about all that together. And just before we dive into the tax benefits, I also wanted to mention that one of the things that we've loved about Malta is the cultural diversity. Like, even in addition to the tax benefits, just from the lifestyle, like it's sort of like an Italian Mediterranean lifestyle, but you also have a lot of cultures here, people speaking Italian, English is widely spoken. You also have Maltese, which has a lot of influence from Arabic. And so ultimately you feel very comfortable. It's like a melting pot of cultures, wouldn't you say?
Yes, it looks very international, even without like modern. And it is very interesting to see all these like people who are even, I think that Maltese people are very well cultured in like European and also Arabic. Like I catch that even in the language, I think.
Maltese is like a mix of Arabic
food.
and the food, yes. A lot of Italian influence, also some North African influence as well.
Sure.
So definitely very beautiful. And throughout its history, Malta has changed hands so many times. We were looking at the history before we were shooting this video, and it's been part of the French Empire, the British, the Romans, the Greeks, the Phoenicians. Carthage was here at one point. So it's really just wonderful. But now, if we go immediately to what interests most of our clients, which is obviously the major tax benefits, I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I would say that a lot of the people who are interested in Malta are digital nomads because they have a great deal for nomads. Would you say?
Yeah, it is a great deal. I think that a lot of people, like if you don't want to live in a certain place, or if you want to have keep that option open, I think Malta is a very good option in that regard because as we know, you don't have to spend 183 days, which is
unless you don't want to.
Yes, you could spend that, but in some cases, I know a lot of people who do not want to be tied to one place for half a year, and they want to be able to move a bit more around, and especially when you're just starting your nomad experience, maybe that you want to kind of explore more. And I think that with tax residency, a lot of countries have this limitation of you have to spend 183 days in this country, so it leaves you only with half the year.
Some are a little bit less, but still, Malta does grant additional flexibility. So for those of you watching back home, essentially the Malta deal in a nutshell is, if you're a high net worth individual, you come to Malta. There are two programs, one if you're an EU national, one if you're not an EU national, or Swiss or EEA. And so you come here and you make a deal with the Maltese tax authority. So you pay a per annum, let's say, flat amount, a kind of lump sum contribution of 15,000 euros per year. And then in addition to that, any money you remit to Malta, any money that is abroad and you bring into Malta, in addition to or in excess of 100,000 euros, is then fully taxable in Malta. Now, the one thing that I do believe that Malta does an exceptional job at is that capital gains are never taxed. So even if they are brought into Malta, they don't trigger taxation, which is something really nice for our crypto clients, for our stock traders. I think all of that is absolutely fantastic.
I think overall Malta tax residency is a very workable way where you can just get this and you can live affordably. Malta is a really nice place to visit for a couple of days, a week or something. You will not feel burdened and I have to go. It's not going to be like that. But even with spending very little time here, you can get this tax benefit, and it is really very good, especially if you want to we're going to touch down on like some banking options, and maybe that is where Malta will definitely be a good option for you if you want to kind of bank in the EU. They are going to be very
Switzerland too.
Exactly. So
definitely.
Lots of benefits.
Yeah, because Malta is, as part of the European Union, is whitelisted for the more traditional conservative jurisdiction. So if you're watching this at home and you want to open a Swiss bank account, for example, Rusudan knows Swiss bank accounts can be tough to open. So they're very good once you get them, but to actually get them, it's, they look at your whole life's history. They want to practically look at what color boxers you're wearing, right, to make sure that you're a right fit for them. And one of the main things they look at is the tax residence. And obviously, Malta is a great tax residence, European Union tax residence, and that makes it easier if you want to open bank accounts at established jurisdictions. So not only are you paying a predictable amount per year, you're only paying taxes on what you remit to Malta, and you're also getting a special deal on your capital gains, but you're also getting great access to banking infrastructure in countries like Switzerland, like Liechtenstein, like Luxembourg, the US, and just the EU in general. However, what I do think that a lot of our clients sometimes overlook is that there is a territorial tax country in Europe. Very few people know about it, and that's your native homeland of Georgia.
Yes, it is. Georgia has, because of territorial tax system, I think that it is very attractive on many levels. But from tax residency perspective, it has a very good program for high net worth individuals.
Right, which are our clients, obviously.
Which are our clients. So if you're watching, it is a very good option for high net worth individuals where you can get a tax residency without spending 183 days.
So similar to Malta in that regard?
Yes, very similar to Malta. And there are like 3 criteria that you have to comply with. The first one is you have to have assets of 3 million Georgian laris, which is around $1 million. Give
or take $1 million,
Yes, give or take $1 million. And you also have to be a resident in Georgia, or you have to have a Georgian sourced income of 25,000 Georgian laris, which is around $8,000. And you also have to have either investment, real estate, or some kind of an asset in Georgia that's around minimum of $500,000.
Right, so you have to make an investment in the country.
Yes, investment in the country. That can be a real estate investment, that can be an investment in a business, or you could even have a bank balance and bank deposit, and that's going to be enough for that.
So you see, that's interesting on that point, because here in Malta, to apply for the program I was mentioning earlier, you do have to commit to renting a place for around 10,000 euros per year, or buying one, but it's optional. Whereas here, you do have to put the 500,000 euros into, US dollars, into the country, right? But the cool thing is it can be a bank deposit property, and obviously the Tbilisi real estate market is very interesting, and the banks are interesting too, right?
Yeah, it is very interesting, and I think that if you just put the money in the bank, it's going to give you a really relatively nice interest rates, and Georgian banks are rather secure, most of them, like the ones that we always say that we should work with in regard to like security and everything. They are on London Stock Exchange, so
they're listed in London.
They are really like there's very little risk of something going wrong with that regards.
No, and you were also telling me how interesting the Georgian banks are with regards to technology. Like you were talking about the online banking. You yourself have been using your Georgian cards here in Europe, in Malta, and they work perfectly well.
Yeah, they do, and even online banking. With Nomad, I've gained a lot of experience with different types of different banking systems, and the date use of different banks is very different from my Georgian experience, because Georgian banks, I guess they had to be very innovative to be able to be on the same level as some other traditional and historical banks around the world. So they are more tech savvy and modernized in that regard. So I think that I've used Georgian bank everywhere, mobile banking everywhere. There's no concerns, no issues like that, and everything can be done digitally. So it is really it's been a blessing in that regard.
No, definitely very, very interesting. The interest rates are nice. The online banking is good. Even, for example, if you come here to Malta, honestly, based on our banking research, we've rarely recommended people to bank in Malta. Sometimes they have their tax residence here. That's obviously good, but we'd always tell them to bank somewhere else. So in Georgia, you kind of have both options. Now, what I always manage to see, Rusudan, correct me if I'm wrong, because you're on the ground in Georgia seeing this all the time, is that maybe Malta is better suited for that person who already made their millions, who wants a well-established place, already has wealth to deposit in a Swiss bank, just leave it there, have it managed, and just kick back and relax. Tax-friendly in Western Europe established. Whereas Georgia, you and I were young, we like the more up-and-coming places, more entrepreneurial. Would you say that is correct?
So I think that in Georgia, you are truly correct, because with Georgia, I even Nomad people that come to Georgia and choose to work in for the programs in Georgia, they are in the stage of their life where they want to accumulate more wealth.
Right.
So I think that based on the cost of living and the proximity to Europe, but kind of maybe a one
Also
step
the Middle
back,
East.
Middle East too. It gives them more opportunity to kind of set up their business, maybe do some startup freelance work or whatever they want to do. They want to do that because you can save more money in Georgia, like
Of
with
course.
that, than in Malta, I think. So,
Right, because Georgia, basically any foreign source income is untaxed,
not. Yeah,
regardless
it
of
is.
where you
Yes,
use it.
it
Whereas
is.
in Malta, you have to really be careful on if am I remitting it to Malta or not. Obviously, you have the special deal for the capital gains, but if it's not capital gains, you have to be
Yes.
careful. So one of the things that I do think we have to clarify, and this is a question that often comes up with our clients, is that the territorial system in Georgia basically applies to individuals, so to
Right.
natural persons. But corporations are different. They're taxed
Yes.
on worldwide income, but they have other benefits. So can you talk a bit about that?
Yes. So if you have a company in Georgia, of course you're gonna get taxed on the Georgian source income and also some income that's like worldwide.
Yeah.
It's gonna be taxed.
Foreign income, yeah.
Foreign income. It's gonna be taxed in Georgia. But what's very good about Georgian companies is that you will only get taxed if you take out a dividend or like do certain operations. So if you want to reinvest it in your company and you don't want to take out the dividend, you do not have to pay any tax on that, like
Right.
no corporate income tax and no withholding tax on the dividend.
Can grow tax-free, even if they're
Exactly.
technically taxed on worldwide income. So
Yes,
it's like
yes.
like a cheat code there.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
love it.
Like that's why it's very good for a person who's like a starting up who wants to kind of invest and grow their wealth. You can just grow it through your company and then you can just get a salary from your company, which can be any amount.
Yeah.
You pay tax on that and that's it.
And that's it.
So
Where you see, so that's very interesting because here in Malta, we rarely recommend Maltese companies. I mean,
Yeah,
there
I
is kind of like a
so.
deal where if it's part of a structure, you can pay 35% at the corporate level, and then you get a reimbursement when you get a dividend, and ultimately you pay 5%. But it's complicated. It can affect your cash flow, and obviously, as a
Yeah, you have to
professional in that
wait.
area, you know that it's tough to commit so much cash flow and then waiting for a reimbursement later. So ultimately, most of our clients who come to Malta, they opt for an offshore corporate structure in some other place. If they're very wealthy, it could be Switzerland, maybe BVI in many cases, but
Right.
rarely do we recommend Maltese tax residents with Maltese companies. Whereas in Georgia, it's more like a one-stop shop. You could have both there.
yeah, exactly. You have bank, you can have your personal tax residency, and you can have the company there if you need to. So
Yeah.
I think that in that regard, maybe it's if you're just starting your nomad journey, maybe Georgia is like
It's
a bit more
easier.
easier.
It's
Like
easier.
it's easier to understand the whole picture and be like, okay, everything is here, so
Yeah.
it works well, all three of us together.
It's kind of
rather
like
than
it's kind of like more expensive to get in because you have to make the investment, but
Yeah.
it's simpler to maintain in the long
Right.
run. Malta's easier to get in, but it's
yeah.
more complex to maintain
Yeah, yeah,
afterwards. And then
Exactly.
ultimately, the other thing we've always discussed is obviously because Georgia is in Eastern Europe, it's up and coming. Sometimes, very conservative banks will say, Georgia, not the
Right.
ideal place. Show us more
Yeah.
documents. So you've
Yeah.
dealt with that with a lot of clients. Not impossible, but harder sometimes to get some accounts.
Yeah, so I think that with Georgian tax residency, if you want to bank with Europe, maybe that's going to be a bit like you're going to get asked a lot of questions and maybe provide a bit more details, a bit more documents, answer a lot of questions. But there are, like, for example, if you want to bank in Asia, like Singapore,
Or
they
the
do
UAE.
not, or the UAE, yeah, maybe they would even prefer Georgian tax residency compared to the EU tax residency. I've had that case where they were like, okay, I don't like this country, and I was like, would you prefer to have a Georgian tax residency?
they would
Would
say
that
yes.
be easier? And surprisingly, they said yes.
And it's not a surprise because Singapore, the UAE, all these are places
Yes.
that are attracting new wealth. Where Switzerland is the old money place, right? It's where people have had their
Yes.
money for generations, and ultimately, their perspectives on what kind of clients they like is all very different.
Yes, different.
So, the bottom line here, I think, Rusudan, for our clients and for everyone watching back home is that there is no one-size-fits-all solution, right?
Of course.
Malta is perfect for the right kind of person. Georgia can also be perfect for the right kind of person. And, the ideal scenario is that you come to Nomad Capitalist, right?
Yes.
And then we have a discussion and we determine whether it's Malta, Georgia, or maybe somewhere else.
Yes, or maybe a combination of like different things. I do think that we always say, and I think I have seen it with our clients and with people that I meet through working with Nomad, that it is always true you have to look at your specific situation, your specific needs. Like if you have a specific business interest in Eastern Europe, in Asia, maybe Georgia is an answer to you. If you don't have that and you want to be more close to the Europe, maybe Malta is the answer, or maybe
To
there's
more
some
traditional markets,
yes,
yeah.
there's somewhere else that you can go to. So definitely come to nomadcapitalist.com and we will definitely help you with that.
There you go. Thank you for being with us today. Drop a comment down below. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram. This is the Tax Terminator and Rusudan signing off. from
Bye.
Malta.